Good day, everyone. Welcome back to Mathematics MJ, where numbers make sense. We break down every concept step by step so you can learn with confidence. So now let's dive deeper into our today's lesson. Our today's lesson is based on grade 10 simplification. So it entails that is the distribution law. So basically, I'll be explaining how to use the distribution law or how to simplify um, uh, questions based on distribution law. So now let's not waste time. So the law itself, it says if you have A inside the bracket, we have B plus C plus D, then this should be equals to. So the law is about distributing the term in front of the bracket across all the terms inside the bracket. So you will have your, let me use a different color, you'll have your A there times B plus, again, you'll have your A times C plus, and again, A times D. Then this is simplified. So basically, I've removed the bracket by multiplying every term using the term in front of the bracket. So I want us to go to example one. So example one, they're saying simplify, right? We have to simplify. Now they're giving us, okay, example one. For example one, now they're giving us 2x cubed plus 3x squared plus 8x plus 7. So according to the law above, we have to multiply everything by 2 to remove the brackets. So that's basically what I'm gonna do right now. So if there is no a coefficient number in front of your variable, then you must know that there is what we call a 1, an invisible 1. So 2 times 1 is just 2, and then you drop down x cubed. 2 times 3, that's positive 6, and then x squared. 2 times 8, that's positive 16, and then there's x there, and then 2 times 7, that's just positive 14. And then I've simplified this example using a distribution law. Same applies to example number 2. So now here's our example number 2. Again, it's about simplifying. Now they are giving us 3 minus 3. And then inside the bracket, you have your 3x squared there minus 2x plus 5. So again, you have to be careful when distributing, right? We don't first say 3 minus 3. Most of the learners would say 3 minus 3 and then it becomes 0. We can't do that because now, remember now, this negative 3 is attached to this bracket. So we can't subtract, right? So what do we do? Since this negative 3 is attached to the bracket, which means that negative 3 should be distributed to the bracket. So what's the first step? The first step, you drop down that positive 3 and then start distributing. Now let's distribute together. Negative 3 times 3, that's negative 9. And then there's x squared there. That's the first thing. Now, negative 3 times negative 2. That's positive what? That's positive 6. So you'll have your positive and then 6, and then you drop down your x there, right? Again, negative times a positive there. You will get your negative 15. So that's negative 15. Now, after getting to this step, you have to take care of what we call the the like terms. The like terms. So 3 and negative 15, they don't have any variables, meaning they don't have any alphabets. Hence, we consider them as our like terms. But now let's write this in a standard form. We start with the highest exponent, which is minus 9x squared plus 6x, and then 3 minus 15, that's minus 12. Then this is your final answer. We're done. Now we have to move to example number 3. Let's move to example number 3. Let me try and create some space, guys, quickly. Now we have to move to example number 3. We're still simplifying under distribution law. So now we have example number 3. So for example number 3, now they are trying to give us something interesting. Okay, let me try and write it here. They're giving us 3. Inside the bracket, we have your 2x squared minus 2x plus 1. And then there's plus 2x, 3x squared minus 2x plus 5. So now if you can check this thing correctly, you will realize that we are given two distributions here, right? This is the first one. You apply distribution law. Second one, you apply distribution law. But we have to understand one thing. What is it that I'm distributing? That's an important question, right? So here we're distributing 3 across all the terms. And then for this one, we distribute 2x, right? I hope it makes sense. So now, let's start. Let's start. So you will have your 3 there across all the terms, your 2x across all the terms, right? So 3 times 2, that's 6x squared. And then 3 times negative 2, that's minus 6. And then there's x, don't forget your x there. And then 3 times 1, that's positive 3. We're done. Now, 2 times 3, that's plus 6. And then x times x squared, that's x cubed. I hope it makes sense, that part. Obviously, if you're multiplying the same basis, you add exponents from law number 1. That's grade 9, right? Now let's continue. Now 2 times negative 2, that's minus 4. X times x, that's x squared. Perfect. Now 2x times 5, that's plus 10x. Now we are left with only one thing. We are left with only one thing, which is to collect our like terms. How do you collect your like terms? Should have the same exponent and the same variable. Then you have your like terms, right? So let's start with okay, before we collect our like, okay, yeah, it's fine. Let's start with 6x squared, which goes with negative 4x squared, right? And then what else do we have? Okay, we have minus 6x and plus 10, right? But now, if you can check something, you will realize that 3 and 6x cubed, those ones are not like terms, which means we have to just drop down, right? So we have to write everything in a standard form. So we have to start with the highest exponent. So our highest exponent would be 6x cubed, now followed by x squared, right? So we have 6x squared minus 4x squared, which will give us plus 2x squared, right? So which means now we're done with these two. So let's cancel them out. We're done with those ones, right? Now we move to x. So you have your minus 6x plus 10x, which will result into 4x, right? And then you only left with your 3 there. You only left with your 3. So you write your plus 3 there. So I've cancelled everything. Now, this is the final expression. This is my final expression. I hope it made sense, guys. Yeah, this one was a bit interesting. But if you understood the distribution law, then you won't have any problems when it comes to such sums. Now let's move to example 4. So for example 4, we are given something like this. We have your minus 4x, open bracket, 2x squared, minus 3x, close bracket, minus 3x squared. Now, before you confuse yourself, please get rid of the bracket. Get rid of the bracket by distributing, right? So negative 4 times 2, that's negative 8x times x squared, that's x cubed, right? We're done with the first part. Negative 4 times negative 3, that's positive 12. X times x, that's x squared. Done with that part, right? And then you drop down this as it is because it's outside what? The bracket, so we cannot distribute. Now, at this point, we have to collect the like terms. You add or subtract your like terms. So these are the like terms, right? So what are we saying? We first drop down 8x cubed because it doesn't have any like term. And then we say 12x squared minus 3x squared, which will give us 9x squared. Then that's it. So guys, we're done with the distribution law. Now we have to move to the next part of simplification, which is about expanding and simplifying the product of binomials. If you did not understand, you can pause the video and go back as well, just to remind yourself. So now we're moving to the next part now of simplification. It's about expanding and simplifying the product of binomials. So what do I mean by binomial? Binomial, it's about two terms. Two terms, A plus B. These are two terms, so we call them a binomial, right? And then one, we call it monomial. And then 3A plus B plus C. Three terms, we call them a trinomial. So we'll be working with binomials, how to find the product of a binomial, right? So now, example number 1. Let's start with example number 1 without even wasting time. So example number 1. Now the question says expand and simplify. And then they give you something like this. You have your x plus 3 and then your x plus 1. How do we simplify this? So we use what we call FOIL. FOIL, this one is for first, outers, inners, and then the last ones, right? So we apply the FOIL. I hope it makes sense. So now let's apply the FOIL. So the first ones, x and x, that's x squared. We good. Perfect. The outer ones, x times 1, that's plus x. The inner ones, 3 and x, that's plus 3x. The last ones, let me use a different color, red. The last one, 3 times 1, that's plus 3. And then from there, now I taught you how to collect the like terms. Just collect your like terms. So for your like terms, you have your x and 3x, right? So x and 3x, we assume there's one, that this will give us 4x plus 3. How did we get to 4? 1 plus 3 is 4. Then we're done with the first part of our example. Now let's move to example number 2. So again, for example number 2, now they're giving us x minus 3 and x minus 2. Again, let's apply the same thing. Start with the first ones, x times x, that's x squared. The last one, x times negative 2, that's negative 2x. And then the inner ones, negative 3 times x, that's minus 3x. Then the last ones, now you have your negative 3 times your negative 2, which will give us a positive 6. Now, collect the like terms. Negative 2x, negative 3x. So you'll have your x squared minus 5x plus 6. Then this is your final answer. I hope it makes sense. I hope it makes perfect sense, right, guys? So we have to move to example 3. Under the same topic, now we move to example 3. So you have your example 3 there. Now we are given x minus 2 and then x plus 5. It's the same idea. You multiply x and x, we get x squared. You multiply x and 5, you get your 5x. And then you multiply your minus 2 with x, you get your minus 2x. And then you multiply the last ones. You multiply the last one, negative 2 times 5, you get your minus 10. And then again, the idea behind is to collect the like terms. And then we collect the like terms. 5 minus 2, that's positive 3. And then there's minus 10 there. Then this is your final answer. Now, example 4. Example 4. Now we are given 2y. Okay, sorry, that's 2x minus 2y, x plus 3y. We have to simplify and expand, right? Again, you multiply 2x with x. So you'll have your 2x squared. And multiply your 2x with 3y. How do we do that? 2 times 3, that's plus 6. And then x times y is just xy. Perfect. And then we have to move to the next ones. Minus 2y times x, you will have your minus 2xy, right? And then the last ones, you have your minus 2y times your positive 3y. And that will give us minus 6y squared. Now, collect the like terms. Do we have like terms? Yes, we do. Collect them, subtract and add, right? So you have a 2x squared. Now, 6 minus 2, that's plus 4xy and then minus 6y squared. And then this is your final answer. I hope it made sense, guys. I hope it made sense. Now we're done with the distribution as well as what we call finding the product of binomials. So now I want us guys to move to how to expand. It's still under simplification. Still under simplification. We are still simplifying. So you have square binomials now. Square binomials. So basically here, it's same as the FOIL method. So they will give you something like this. A plus B all squared. So the idea behind is to open two brackets because of the exponent there. So it's bracket number 1 and bracket number 2. Because of these two, we open two brackets. And then from there, you apply you apply the FOIL method where you multiply these ones, etc., etc., right? So basically, when you multiply A and A, you will get your A squared. Multiply A and B, you will get your AB. Multiply B and A, you will get your AB again. And then multiply B and B, you will get your what? Your B squared, right? Some learners will say, but sir, here we multiply A and B and then we get AB. But for these ones, we multiply B and A. Why are we still saying AB? So here, AB is equals to BA. It's the same thing. Why am I saying that? On the left hand side, you have your A, we have A. Right hand side, you have your B, B, which means these two things are equal and are the same, right? Perfect. So we have to collect the like terms. You'll end up having your 2AB plus B squared. Then done. So it's just the same thing. It's just the same logic behind. So here's example 1. So for example 1, we have to expand and simplify. So we are expanding and then you simplify. Expand and simplify. Okay, let me try and erase this part here. So basically for expanding and simplifying there, they give us x minus 3 to the power 2. How do we expand this? Again, you open two brackets. I'll teach you two ways to do this. Open two brackets, you have your x minus 3 minus 3, right? And then we start applying the FOIL method. When you apply the FOIL method, you multiply these two, you get x squared, you multiply the last ones, you get your minus 3x, inner ones, you get your minus 3x again, and then negative 3 and negative 3, you get your positive 9, right? And then this ends up giving us minus 6x when collecting like terms, and then plus 9, right? There's another way which is quite simpler. You have your x minus 3 squared, right? Now, the first thing that you do, you square the first term. Square the first term. So this is the first term. I'm squaring the first term. I will have what? Squared there, right? Now, square the last term. Here's my last term, minus 3. Square the last term. You have your minus 3 squared, right? And then to get the middle term, you multiply everything, meaning you multiply x times negative 3 times positive 2. So you'll have your plus x times -3 times 2, and then there's a plus there. So now the final answer would be x squared, that's just x squared, right? And then when you square the last term, you'll have your +9 there. Now, x times -3, that's -3x, times 2, that's -6x. Then this is the final answer. But again, we will do other examples as well using the same uh, um, idea behind. So now example 2, let's go to example 2. For example 2, they're giving us now 3x plus 2y all squared. Let's start with the first example, the first method rather. So for the first method, you open two brackets, you have your 3x, your 2y, and your 2y, plus and plus. Now we have to multiply, right? 3x times 3x, that's 9x squared. 3x times 2y, that's +6xy. Again, 3x times 2y, that's +6xy. And then the last one's 2y times 2y, that's 4y squared, right? And then you drop down 9x squared. Now collect the like terms. So for like terms, I have these, which is plus 12xy, and then drop down 4y squared. Then done. Right? Now, let's use the second method. You have your 3x plus 2y squared. Now, square the first term, you'll have your 3x, right? All squared. Square the last term, you have your 2y all squared. Multiply everything. You multiply 3x with 2y with 2 as well. So you'll have your plus, that's 3x times 2y times 2. Then there's a plus. Now, you have to give me the middle term now. Now, uh, try and simplify this. That's 9x squared when you get rid of the brackets here. Then 3 times 2 times 2, that's plus 12xy. So that's xy, and then plus 4y squared. Then the answers are the same. And the answers are the same. And which means we are done. Now let's move to the next example, which is example number 3. Let's move to example number 3. So for example number 3 now, they gave us 2x plus 5 squared minus 3x minus 3 squared. So the first thing that you have to do, you have to square the first term to get 4x squared, right? Multiply everything here, including 2, to get the middle term, which will give us plus 20x. And then square the last term here, which is 5. The square of 5 is what? 25. Done. Minus, apply the same thing here. Square 3x, you get your 9x squared. Square minus 3, you get your +9. Eh? Multiply everything to get the middle term. You'll get your minus 18x plus 9. Perfect. And then from here, there's -1 here, there. So which means now you have to now start to distribute to get rid of the bracket. So we have your 4x squared plus 20x plus 25 minus 9x squared plus 18x minus 9. Are we still together? And then from here, try and collect the like terms. My favorite step is to collect the like terms because I know very well that now I'm approaching the final step. So 4 minus 9, that's minus 5x squared. 20 plus 18, that's plus 38x. And then 25 minus 9, that's plus 16. Then we are done simplifying the sum. Simple as that. Now let's move to example 4. Let's move to example 4. So for example 4, we are given, okay, x plus 4 squared plus x minus 3 and then x minus 2. Again here, we have to take care of this, right? Let me use a different color here. The first step, you'll have your x squared plus 8x plus 16. At this stage, I believe that you guys understand what I've just done here, right? And then from here, you multiply x and x, we get x squared. We multiply again, we get minus 2x minus 3x plus 6. I hope you're still with me. And then from here, now let's move straight to my favorite step now. Collecting the like terms. And then the last one. So now let's collect all the terms. You'll have your 2x squared plus, that's 3x, because 8 minus 5 is 3. And then 16 plus 6, that's plus 22. That's plus 22. So guys, now we left with the last part now, which is difference of square binomials. The difference of square binomials. So with the difference of square binomials. Now, what do I mean by that? So let's say now, for argument's sake, now you have your a minus b, then your a plus b equals to. How do we go about simplify this thing? You use the FOIL method. A times a, that's a squared. Now a times b, that's plus ab. And then negative b times a, that's minus ab. And then negative b times b, that's minus b squared. But if you can check something, ab and negative ab, they cancel each other, right? So now you end up with a squared minus b squared. So basically, what are we saying? The law is about the fact that if you have everything the same within the brackets, but it's only the signs which are different, you only multiply your first terms and your last terms, then you're done. What do I mean by that? We have your a minus b and then your a plus b. You can only multiply a and a to get a squared, b and b to get minus b squared. Then this is your final answer. That's what I meant, right? So the law is about that. The law is about that, basically. So now let's move to example 1. Let us move to example 1. So for example 1, again, we have to expand and simplify. H my M. Mm, and simplify, right? So you have your x minus 2 and then your x plus 2. This is simple, guys. You first multiply the first two terms, x and x. First multiply the first term rather, that's x squared. And then you multiply the last terms, you get your minus 4. Then this is your final answer. You're done. Simplify it, you get your full marks. Moving to example number 2. We apply the same thing. Example number 2. Now they're giving us x minus a and then x plus a. First two terms, that's x squared. Last two terms, that's minus a squared. Done. Can you see, guys, this is just simple. This one is so simple. Let's move to example number 3. So for this one, they're giving us now 3x minus, okay, plus 4, and then 3x minus 4. First terms, that's 9x squared. Last terms, that's minus 16. Done. That's it. Simple as that. Now, let me come up with an interesting sum and then we close our lesson. What happens now if they give you something like this? Square bracket, x minus a minus 4, close bracket there, x plus, again now they're giving us a minus 4, close bracket. Let me give you a minute, just a minute, and then I will give you the answer after a minute. You can try this one quickly, and then we'll confirm the answers together. Okay, my learners, the minute is over, right? So now I want us to simplify this one. So you multiply the first two terms here. X and x will give us x squared. Perfect. And then you multiply the last two terms. Our last two terms, you have your a minus 4, a minus 4, different signs, right? So you'll have your minus a minus 4 squared, right? But we don't stop here because now this is not simplified. So you'll have your x squared minus, now let's apply the method that I taught you. Square the first term, that's a squared. Multiply everything to get the middle term, that's minus 8a. And then square the last term, that's plus 16. Perfect. Now, let us try to get rid of the bracket using the distribution law. So now we have your minus a squared plus 8a and minus 16, right? Now, my favorite step now, favorite part of the question is to collect the like terms. Minus a plus 8, that's plus 7a, and then minus 16. So this is the final answer, right? Okay, wait, let me see. I was rushing, sorry about that. I see that those are not like terms. You have your x squared there, minus a squared, and then plus 8a, and then minus 16. These are not like terms. Sorry about that. So which means now this is your final answer. This is your final answer. Thank you guys for joining my lesson. I have to say bye. I'll see you on the next lesson.